Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Acker. I'm also with these three gentlemen at Personal Administration School in Camp Johnson, North Carolina. I teach the entry-level guys, 18, 19, 20 years old, sometimes as old as 26, 27, depending on when they decide to come in the Marine Corps. Teach them basic administration so they can get them out to the fleet so they can do their jobs.
My name is E.Weber. I'm an associate professor of communication studies in the communication studies department at UNC-W, Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been teaching here since fall of '99. I teach a wide range of classes. My specialty area is called organizational communication, which is kind of like business communication. I also teach the introductory course for brand new majors, and I also teach courses in rhetorical theory. Occasionally I teach courses in communication theory, but my main specialty area is organizational communication. The special guests came in a class that's called Communication Consulting. The number is COM 374, and it's an example of what I call applied organizational communication. So organizational communication is the study of how people in large, goal-oriented groups interact with each other, make choices in how they send messages to one another, spoken language, written messages, gestures, attire, you name it. Well, applied organizational communication takes that a little bit deeper into how does this actually work, not just in theory, but in actual practice. So several courses I teach are applied organizational communication courses, and one of them is the communication consulting course. That course, COM 374, is designed to answer the question, what are the fundamental communication skills I must be able to use if I want to go out in the world and facilitate change for members of other organizations. The purpose of that particular lesson was to begin the process of looking at creativity. Creativity in terms of how a consultant needs to use creativity in his or her work, how to facilitate creativity in organizations where you are working, your client organizations. And this was the first day that we addressed that topic. It was the first of what will be several days throughout the semester that will address the topic. The purpose of the course was to assign students a simulation, a practical exercise that called upon them to think creatively, think outside of standard territory. The Marines came to the classroom thanks to a program that we have been running, we UNCW, we have been running since approximately the year 2000. And this program is called the Effective Teaching Seminar. And it's one of several programs we operate with the Marines as our clients, in which Marine Corps instructors from Camp Johnson learn from UNCW professors some teaching techniques that they don't learn when they're learning how to be Marine Corps instructors. So a Marine Corps instructor may be given some basic instruction in how to deliver a good lecture, how to lead a discussion, but there are more ways of instructing than just those. So UNCW exposes them to these different ways. One way of doing this is to have them sit in on classes taught by college professors. And the idea is that they observe for an hour, and then they do this with several professors throughout the afternoon or the morning, and then at the end of the day, they meet to discuss with the facilitator of the program what they learned. You know, one of the strategic imperatives for UNCW is to engage the community, meaning to send our students and faculty members into the community to enable community organizations to reach their goals, usually not-for-profit organizations or government organizations. And this project of community engagement reaches into all parts of the university. And the Marines coming here to learn about effective instruction is just an example of how we do engage with the community. So I think it's very effective from that point of view. We've been doing it, as I said, for all of these years, and the reports are from the Marines that they learn a lot. I think the students learn from the Marines in a variety of ways. Number one, whenever they come into my classes, at least, and they come in at least once a year, not necessarily every semester, but every year I have, at least in one class, one semester, a couple of Marines come in to observe. And I think one thing the students benefit from is, number one, getting some outsider perspectives on the course content. Many of these Marines are not college graduates. Many of them have not started college yet. Maybe they're due to start college, even though they're older. They've arranged to go back to school, but they haven't started yet. They are, in many ways, outsiders to the college experience. So it's always good to have students exposed to people whose take on college is different from theirs. It expands my students' thinking about what they're doing as college students. Another reason why I think it's a good idea for this from the student's point of view is the thought process that the Marines go through when they participate in the assignments in class with me. It's going to be a different form of critical thinking than the students may go through, because the Marines are very well experienced in creative and critical thinking, but with different aims and different reasons from what my students may be normally using critical thinking or creative thinking to handle. So it's good for the students to see this happening. It's good for the students to interact with them. I'd say those are the two main reasons it's good for the students. I think they all brought something different to the table. Now, what I noticed was some of them were a little quieter than others. I think there was one gentleman named Scott who was quiet until the end, and then he had a great deal of very interesting comments to make. Other Marines were apparently, according to what the students were saying, at least in one group, one of the Marines actually was he provided the conceptual blockbusting for what was going on. And again, that reflects what I said earlier about the Marines' ability to think critically and creatively being different from how the students may do those things. So all in all, I think the Marines contributed a great deal. What I'd really like to have happen, and this is a kind of a selfish point of view as an instructor, I would like to have some feedback from the Marines about what they learned about instruction, about classroom management, about students, college students. I'd like to hear from them what they learned. Currently, we instructors, we professors who participate in the program, we don't get that information. I would like to know, it's a privilege to have outsiders who are themselves experienced instructors. It's a privilege to have them in the classroom and being able to observe what I do or don't do, or the choices I make as an educator. I'd like to hear their take on how effective or ineffective I may be. So I hope that's one direction it goes. There's a kind of a feedback loop for the professors. I myself have a great deal of contact with Marines in the local area because a couple times a year I go up to Camp Johnson and I teach the Marine Corps instructors there certain teaching techniques that they don't learn when they study the basics of how to be an instructor. So to see the Marines as students whom I'm teaching, and then to see the Marines participating in my classes in the university, it's very interesting to me. Up at Camp Johnson, they contribute, they're extroverted quite often. They're in their own comfort zone, if you will. But in the college classroom, it's a challenge to them if they're integrated into what's going on, because it's not their comfort zone. So it's particularly thrilling for me to see the Marines get into it with the college students and work well with them, because I know that they're stretching themselves to do that.
Marines were instilled without even knowing it, how to problem solve. Over time, our experiences show us the way to make sound decisions on a moment's notice to get to the end state that the commander wants, or whoever the senior leadership is that wants.
Good. What do you think, Scott?
I'll be honest, I had no creative input on this whatsoever because it's out of my realm. Really? I'm not artistic. I'm a cut and dry type of guy.
Okay.
But creativity in the Marine Corps is definitely, you need to have it as a senior leader, especially because I've been in the Marine Corps for 17 years and I've had Lance Corporals give me ideas. Lance Corporals meaning guys that have been in 2 or 3 years, maybe a year and a half. And they put out ideas that were excellent. And as a manager, I had to ensure that I took everybody's input as needed and incorporated if it needed to be. Especially if it's a good idea, because good ideas can come from anywhere,
Right.
not just from your senior leaders. And that's what I enjoy most about being a Marine.
How do you create the space, so to speak, to have your young Marines respond to the challenge of being creative? How do you create that space for them?
I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm not the end-all be-all. I'm a man and a woman just like everybody else. The only difference between me and you is I've had a little bit more experience than you. However, your idea is not necessarily bad. It may not work in that particular situation, but as long as they know as a leader that I'm approachable with ideas, I think that's all that needs to be done.
Cool, excellent. Well, that's a good note to end on. Let's give the Marines some appreciation.